สวัสดีค่ะ The Chinese art market has been booming over the past couple of years, with Chinese being the strongest buyers. What gave rise to this trend? And is buying up art a good investment option? How would you know if you're not paying too high? I talked to Phil Whitaker, the director of Sotheby's Institute of Art Asia. Phil, what is or maybe what are some of the latest trends in the international art market?
Well, the latest trends, as ever, are in the contemporary art market, any contemporary art market, but predominantly in the Chinese contemporary, which is my primary area of research at the moment. And the interest is always in contemporary art because it's a very volatile and unknown area. And so there's a lot more gambling and investment goes on in those areas. So my background is more business than art, and therefore I'm very much interested in researching and understanding the reasons why people buy art, and the reasons why lots of people buy art in Asia, China, but throughout all of Asia, is they see art as a viable alternative asset class. And so they see art, they see people making big money in art. So there's a particular Indonesian artist. When I arrived in Singapore in 2007, a painting of his sold at auction. It was estimated at about $5,000 US, and it sold for $20,000.
Wow.
And everyone went, wow. And 18 months later, it sold for $334,000.
Wow.
Big wow. And so people see those things and they see people making money and getting rich, and therefore they want a piece of that. So that has been a bit of a trend throughout Asian contemporary art for a long time. Mm-hmm. The other major trend is in the antiquities area and Chinese antiquities. Chinese works of art, modern. There's 4 of the top 10 grossing artists are Chinese at the moment. Mm-hmm. And they're modern artists. They're not the new contemporary, they're modern. But they're selling paintings at fantastic prices. And then there's the objects themselves. So record prices being sold for objects. Antique, $63 million for a scroll last year, $84 million, although it hasn't been paid, so there are some issues over this. $84 million for a vase, a double-walled reticulated vase. Just unbelievable figures. The reasons why that's happening are also intriguing, but those are the current trends.
Mm-hmm. So why do we see all these buyers buying up Chinese, whether it's contemporary arts or antiquities?
Well, it's not always the Chinese buying the contemporary. The antiquities, I don't know. There's several theories. One is, of course, that they are in effect buying back heritage. Because for many, many years, particularly under Mao, for instance, the old was disregarded and the old was actively shunned and actively destroyed. And I think now that some of the Chinese are trying to rediscover their own history. And they're wealthy enough to do it now. Mm-hmm. And because of the Western colonial powers in the 1800s, late 1800s, were repeatedly sacking the Summer Palace and the Forbidden City. There's an estimated 10 million pieces of Chinese art outside of China. So there's lots of art to be bought still, and lots of very precious things. And the Chinese want them back. And they relate to that art. I think there's a sort of cultural resonance to the aesthetic. And therefore the very best pieces do very well. Mm-hmm. There have been some difficulties with that, and with that enthusiasm of the Chinese buyers. And quite recently, and the world record price at the moment is $84 million for a vase, but it hasn't been paid for yet, because the buyer, who's a Chinese mainland buyer, is disputing the commission. Because if you buy something at auction, sort of a hammer goes down at $1 million, then you normally have to pay $1 million plus a percentage premium. And for the auction house that this particular piece was bought from, the commission was a flat 20%. So it's quite a lot of money, the commission, and the buyer is now disputing that. So I think there's some protest bids, but there's also people just get a bit carried away and then suddenly think, oh my God, I've bid $20 million for this. Do I really want to pay for it? And so some of the auction houses, some of the Western auction houses, have been taking a tougher line on that now. So for instance, there was a major auction in Hong Kong with our sister organisation, the auction house Sotheby's, and it was the Ming Tai auction, and it was supposed to be a real success, but only out of the 77 lots, 23 didn't sell. Now that's considered a disaster, and a couple of the major pieces didn't sell, so it was considered a disaster.
So what happened?
Well, what contributed to that was before buyers could even bid on any of the premium pieces, they had to deposit $1 million with the auction. So the price of getting a premier paddle was $1 million.
Wow.
I mean, you got the money back, obviously, but you had to deposit $1 million. And at the start of the auction, the auctioneer, who was Henry Howard Sneed, who used to run Sotheby's Asia, now based in New York, he sort of issued a warning to the audience saying, okay, here's the rules for this bid. If you're a premium bidder, you're a factor, otherwise you're not allowed to bid. And if you bid and win today, you must settle the bill by the end of the day.
Wow.
Because normally it's something like 30 days or whatever days. You must settle by the end of today. And that was because a lot of Chinese buyers were bidding and then defaulting, which causes the auction house no end of problem.
But Chinese buyers or collectors are now a big market, right?
Oh, they are a big market, but they have to give you the money.
Right.
And there was a worrying trend that people were just bidding these ridiculous prices and then not paying. That distorts the market image as well, because all you ever see is $84 million for a vase, this double-walled reticulated vase.
And it becomes news.
And that's news.
Yeah.
But the fact that it hasn't been paid for distorts the value of it. And so there's a lot of value distortion and there's a lot of apparent froth there. But actually, underneath it all, there is a very big push and a very real increase in the interest and prices of Chinese antiquities.